Good evening. If you do have a mobile phone, if you'd like to put it on silent, please, thanks. Right, massive welcome for the first time to David Adelman with Staying Sane in an Insane World. A solutions-based talk with what we may do to help ourselves through strange times at the end. But first, the problems need highlighting, and David points straight away at the state education indoctrination system, which now starts shortly after we can walk, continuing into adulthood with relentless news via TV and through newspapers that we actually buy. David is an author, teacher, speaker and free thinker who aims to re-educate people into greater independence and a little more. Please welcome David Adelman.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rob. When he first called me a couple of months ago to ask me to do this, and I thought, whoa, great, an opportunity to plug my book. And then I thought, hang on a minute, he doesn't know I've written a book. So I thought, no, I need to do this a bit broader than a shameless plug for a book and just to talk about the education system, although that's really very important, and it's where it all starts for many children. But this has to be a bit broader, because as I'm sure you've noticed, the times are a little bit turbulent. Yeah, I mean, you don't need me, there's so many things you really don't need me to say. Like, you know, things don't make much sense anymore. We're being charged more and more for less and less. Health is falling apart. So entire systems are melting down. You know, whistleblowing is taking place all over the place. My expertise suggests that I should blow the whistle on the education system, but really I'm here to blow a few more whistles than that. There's a barrister just gone on record, well, her identity is secret, and she's now saying that the legal system is virtually is not fit for purpose. The healthcare service, that's a contradiction in terms. We don't do healthcare anymore, if we ever did. So the education system for me is an easy target because I'm familiar with it, but I'm going to cover a wide, my remit tonight is wide. It was actually daunting. I thought, how can I cover all this in an hour? I'll give it a go. The thing is, a lot of this, some of this information, because you're out of the box thinkers, a lot of you, some of this information will be familiar to you, so I'm going to present it in a way that won't be familiar to you. So it may involve you just going, whoa, where did that come from? Or, whoa, what's he on about? Or, what's he on? Because when you're a free thinker, and my free thinking has grown exponentially in the last few years, it really does, you just end up making no sense at all to most of the people around you, and you're just labelled bonkers. No, and anything you say brings on cognitive dissonance for them, you know, you get this knee-jerk reaction, don't you? No, rubbish. And when you ask them to just justify their viewpoint, they actually, all they can do is repeat their viewpoint. They can't actually justify it. They can't rationalize it. Someone who's justifying, for example, prescription drugs, just says, oh no, it's medical science, it's proven to work. Well, where's the proof? You know, they've never got it. They just take it on trust. Anyway, so I've given you the health warning. This talk may bring on giddiness, dizziness, and feelings of queasiness. But the antidote to all of this, whatever your situation is, and if you're anything like me, there are challenges like you've never had before. The antidote, the bottom line antidote, which I'll mention now and I'll keep mentioning, it will be a recurring theme, is the ability to, despite everything, despite what the thoughts that are going through your head, despite what people are saying and people are doing all around you, the key to sanity in an insane world is to love yourself. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what information I give you, it will not be activated unless you are loving yourself. It will just be a waste of my breath and a waste of your time. So what the first and the last thing I would ask you to do is think about ways that you can learn to love and respect yourself, okay? More about that as we go along, okay? And in the second half, I will introduce something called peaceful, self-loving non-compliance, because we've all heard of free man on the land, we've all heard of sovereignty. I don't think, for me, those don't hit bullseyes. It's more about self-loving non-compliance. Just learning to say no, thank you, but no thank you. Thanks for the offer of paying £1,000 council tax for someone to collect my bins once a week, but no thank you. You know? Now, obviously, there's more to it than that, because these people that run the show, or think they run the show, haven't got the intelligence and the wit to realise that you actually might be right, or they're frightened to admit that you might be right. So they send in the bully boys, but we'll have a chat about that later. Right, some background information. Just excuse me while I have a sip. Background information. I was on Facebook about a week ago, and somebody posted something, and I thought I needed to share this with you. Okay, so I'm going to share some background stuff, make you so that we're all on the same page, which I know we are anyway, to be honest. Then I'm going to recite something from the book, which is relevant to the predicament we're all in. And then what I'm going to do, we're going to play the numbers game. I've promised you an A to Z. We're going to play the numbers game. I'm going to work with numbers. You'll see what I mean when it starts. To dispel some myths, do a bit of myth busting, so that this journey towards loving yourself can take place without all the nonsense, or you can start to dismantle some of the crap, yes, which I'm sure a lot of you are already doing anyway. But this will be my take on that journey, and then we'll get into the A to Z. Now, the A to Z of the Sixth Society will definitely focus on the education system, because it's the least I can do to sort of, you know, do justice to the book. So by the time we get that far, we'll be in education. But first, the more general social sickness. Right, I'm indebted to a friend, a Facebook friend. I won't mention him because I've got his permission to use this. I don't have his permission to reveal his identity. But he said this on Facebook. We've been rendered helpless and hopeless. The moral fibre of this country has been eroded. We are now in survival mode, merely scraping by each day and just hoping for the best we can get. We've lost our sense of community and connection. We can't rely on each other anymore because no one's got anything left to give. We will turn on each other if it means we will hang on to what we have. It's dog eat dog. We have been separated and divided against each other by a system that is self-serving. It has broken the family unit by forcing both parents out to work. Children have no safety, guidance or security. The state tells parents what they can and can't do with their own children. The state uses the fear of punishments and fines to keep us in line. We fear losing the prized possessions that define us. We have been made to feel worthless by society's idea of what is right and good. We spend copious amounts of time, energy and money trying to conform and fit in. Well, some of us do anyway. We need to take a look deep inside ourselves and at ourselves. If we are to experience any changes, we need to examine our part in all of this. We need to look at what we are doing that contributes to maintaining a system that does not support us and our families. When we take a passive role, turn a blind eye and walk on by, we are contributing to all of this. Our power lies in assuming responsibility for all that is in our individual worlds. Once we get our own house in order, we can help, support and assist others. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, definitely.
What you find in the so-called real world is you have lots of people trying to help others. That's not how you build a better world. You help yourself first. You learn to love yourself first, and then you share that with others. But we have so many do-gooders and care workers, support workers. I'm not criticising those professions. I'm just saying that the emphasis is wrong. We should be caring for ourselves first, and then others second. If the people that the carers had to care for had cared for themselves first, the carers wouldn't need to be caring. Yes? We're burdening ourselves. We're bringing others down by not caring or loving ourselves, by not nourishing ourselves, by watching too much television, by, well, you know exactly what, you know, drinking too much, talking too much nonsense. You know, we're self-harming, basically. We've become a race, and it's not just the British or the French or I'm talking about the whole human race here. We've become a race of self-harmers. If we were ever anything else, we probably were something else. But now we're self-harmers. If you're not, I'm going to be quite brutal here, if you're not self-loving, you're self-harming. It's one or the other. There's no neutral stance on this. You're either self-nourishing or self-harming. So what they do is quite clever, this. They have your idea of a self-harmer, and mine, until I thought this through, was a teenage girl, usually a girl, who takes a knife and slices her arm off, you know, or cuts it. Yeah, that's a typical idea of a self-harmer, isn't it? Well, that's an extreme version. That's a media-hyped version. We are all self-harming when we swallow nonsense. I mean, somebody, is it Rob? Another Rob put this as an icebreaker. You know, emergency procedure for if you see a friend or colleague beginning to swallow mainstream media bullshit. Heimlich maneuver. Yeah? If you're swallowing media bullshit, if you are doing anything to excess that is clearly harmful, like smoking, drinking, or whatever, you know, not sleeping right, not looking after yourself, it's self-harming. Now, it may not be clinical. No doctor would recognise you as a self-harmer, but that's all part of the systemic dysfunction. That the idea of self-harming has just been put in a very narrow little pigeonhole. Oh, it's somebody who cuts themselves and wants the attention of a doctor because they're bleeding. No, that's just extreme self-harming. So I'm here to encourage you to move away from whatever version, and we all do it. I mean, I'm no exception here. You know, I'm not preaching here. I'm reflecting back what I'm seeing in myself and in society. So we all need to take a good look at ourselves, like my Facebook friend has suggested, and stop thinking too much about the harm that other people are doing and think more about the self-harm that we're doing. And then you can move on. You'll naturally move on. You know, it's amazing. I mean, I have put this into practice for quite a while, and more about that will become evident. And you just move on. Life just does get better the more you look after yourself. I can guarantee you that. Absolute guarantee. Because you're looking at someone who's doing that and living it. That's one of the reasons I'm stood here, to be honest. Right, a quote from the book. It's The Cycle of Codependency. This is my take on what my Facebook friend has put. Okay, so this is how basically we get trapped into a cycle of negativity and fear-based nonsense, basically. Right, one, the education industry compromises your well-being and sense of self. This creates a need to eat for emotional comfort. You turn to comfort food and drink, and other things as well. Two, the food and drinks industries provide what scientist and researcher David Wilcott refers to as weaponized food and drink. Genetically modified wheat, chemically enhanced fast and processed food that is designed to create all kinds of disease. You now need medical help. You turn to your doctor. Your doctor is not trained in health, well-being or nutrition. They do about 2 hours in their entire career. So he or she has to resort to symptom control or symptom suppression using materials supplied by the pharmaceutical industry. You take the drugs. Just as an aside, the root of pharmaceutical is the Greek pharmaseu, which means toxin, poison. The pharmaceutical industry provides medication that will cause as many problems as it solves, creating side effects that are often worse than the original problem. You take more drugs to deal with the after effects of the original drugs. The media and advertising industries oil the cogs of this process by giving you profit-motivated information that will rarely give you the bigger picture. You buy into a model of happiness that is artificial and short-lived. The banking and other retail industries offer their support, but they are a trap for the unwary and take the exploitation of the individual to another level. You borrow and buy, but nothing changes. You are just more of a money, image and status slave than before. So it's not a pretty picture that I'm painting. It's a pretty dark one. But like I said, and I'll keep reiterating, once you're conscious of this, you've solved half the problem. More than half, probably. And the other half is just looking after yourself and steering a nice steady path through these very murky waters. Because although we are a slave race. Now, I've just thrown in a concept there that might boggle the mind. The human race is essentially a slave race. I'm not here to go into that. I'm sure other speakers have done that. Genetically modified slave race. We are designed to suffer and to serve other agendas. But we are waking up. The cycle of our solar system is allowing more light to come through, so we're waking up to our divinity and to who we really are. So that's why you've got people like me saying, hang on a minute, we're not taking this anymore. Sorry, guys. You know, this is, you know, voluntary or involuntary servitude ends here. And it does include life itself. You don't have to be born. But we're conned into it. So the con is not just the banking scam and the taxing scam and the education scam and the medical industry scam and the drugs industry scam and, you know, legal scams. The scam is huge. It's life itself is, arguably, a con. We don't have to be here. But maybe a little bit more about that later. Right, so let's start the numbers game. Bit of myth busting. This is designed to give you some tools. Now, obviously, I'm throwing a lot of information at you. It's going to do your heads in live, but you can go home, reflect on it, and watch the video, and you'll be able to take in more. And so some of it is literally, really, my aim is just to get it out there. Yeah? So this is the opposite of a slick corporate, you know, presentation. No PowerPoint. I've discussed it with Alex, and he's a very happy man. Doesn't have to worry about the audio visual, just the audio. Oh, and the visual. I'm on the visual, aren't I? So this is really, I'm scattering seeds. You know, some of them you will accept straight away. Some of which you'll reject straight away, fine. Some of which you'll have to take home and water them and meditate on them yourself. That's your power, that's your divine authority, that's your free will. Okay, I'm just a messenger, I just have a message for you. Okay, right, the numbers game, 1. So the number, starting with the number 1. We go through 1 to 10 and then 56. Work that one out. 1, we are all one. So I'm debunking the New Age mantra, we are all one. No, we're not all one. If we were all one, I wouldn't be stood here, would I? What I would say is we are all from one. We have one individual source, or one source. But if we're sat in different seats, we're not all one. We are all from one. And there's a huge difference, but that could take 3 months just to think about that. Yeah? So what am I talking about? The one, the all. Some people call it God. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's the creative source of everything. Yeah, the original prime creative source of everything. There's only one of that, but there's more than one of us. The two certainties. Are you familiar with the two certainties? Death and taxation. Both are utter nonsense. You don't die, your body won't be in a great shape after you pass on. You just move on, you just change your awareness, your consciousness shifts. So you don't die, but if you're convinced that you do die, then go ahead and die. But you'll just get a bit of a rude awakening after you do pass on. Taxation is voluntary. They don't tell you that. And in the second half, when I go a little bit more risque, as if I'm not being risque enough, I'll tell you how I dealt with the Inland Revenue. Okay? Basically, we've been misled. We've been sold down the Swanee. We've been... Everything is not as it appears. Let me rephrase that. Nothing is as it seems. Nothing, and I mean nothing. Including the so-called authorities, especially the so-called authorities. More about that later. So taxation is not a certainty. The three wisdoms. So what I'm doing here is I'm highlighting oddities, things that have misled us, things that we hold as truths, but they're not truths at all. They're just old wives' tales, a lot of them. The three wisdoms. Listening is one. So you're not being true to the other if you're not listening. The second wisdom, contemplating. You're not being true to yourself if you're not contemplating. And our education system, there you go, can't resist it. Our education system is, they expect you to listen, but you're listening most of the time to utter nonsense. Contemplate. All right, there are some contemplative methods being introduced slowly into schools to 12 children here and 20 children there. But millions of children are bullied into non-contemplation, just ruthless rote learning, you know, and activity, when most of the time they just want to play or be still, or not be still. Wisdom number 3, meditation. Meditation. Whatever you do, it should be, whether it's ironing, washing up, anything, walking in the park, it should be a quiet moment, because God, or whatever you understand by the word God, is only available in your quiet moments, when you're asleep sometimes. Have you not noticed that? That you get these amazing ideas or these amazing insights when you're quiet? Yeah? So anything that's noisy, and I mean anything that's noisy, is an attempt, usually unconscious, to remove you, to distance you from your inner voice, your inner divine wisdom. And it's all around us. I cannot go to a noisy bar or a noisy cafe or a noisy pub. I physically can't do it anymore. So when you go on the journey of self-nourishment, you'll find it happening to you. You just cannot. Noise repels me. Yeah? Number 4, the 4 causes of disease. Trauma. Physical, obviously, but psychological. I was watching a French professor of psychology say something. It even shocked me. I thought, Craig, I take a bit of shocking, I've got to tell you. She said that 90 to 95% of children on the planet are abused and traumatized by their upbringing. 90 to 95%. So that's most of us in here have been abused, stroke, traumatized by our upbringing. Not just schooling. To be fair to schools, they're just kicking you while you're down. Yeah? Your parents hand you on a plate. There you go. He's down. She's down. Give her another kicking. Give her another kicking. Oh, all right then. Yeah. Yeah. So that's staggering. And we're not talking of extremes. Whenever you talk about abuse, you think of paedophilia or severe beatings. No, we're talking about neglect, ignoring someone's needs, shouting them down, telling them to shut up, forcing them into that corner when they want to be in that corner, restraining them when they want to play and run around. This is abuse. That's why the school system is essentially an abusive system. And I don't care whether your child is happy at school, because that is possible, just about, or thriving at school, possible, but unlikely. They are still the school system is still abusing children. And in fact, it's a breach of humanitarian rights. There are international laws against some of the things that happen to children in schools and happen to children in their own homes. But because that's done privately, you know, the society couldn't do anything about that. Unless it was really extreme, then the social workers move in. But I'm trying to avoid these extreme scenarios. They're just media hyped. The more common scenario is me and you and our parents and peer groups dismantling our sense of self. Almost always unconsciously. Very few people would do that deliberately. It's been done to them, so it's all they know. Yeah? So we're just passing down this poison chalice all the time. We're just, and people like me are here to say, no, it stops here. It stops here. Yeah? There's a generation of children coming through that don't need this. They're fully formed. They're the crystal generation. They are high definition children. They don't need to be told anything. Nothing. They are our teachers. Trauma, toxicities, number 2. Fairly obvious cause of disease. If you drink something poisonous or if you take something poisonous, toxicity would include electromagnetic frequencies from Wi-Fi's and mobile phones. Anything with the word smart in front of it, be very cautious. Especially smart meters. Pulsing out stuff 24/7. Really, don't go there. Just do not go there. You cannot be self-loving and self-nurturing and have a smart meter at home. It's an impossibility. Thought, toxic thoughts, harmful, self-harming thoughts. Yeah, thoughts. Doctors used to call that, oh, it's psychosomatic. That was their way of dismissing it. So we can't deal with it, it's psychosomatic. Well, psychosomatic is still very much part of a disease pattern. You know, if you think fearful, self-demeaning thoughts and don't deal with them, don't acknowledge them, go into denial, then those thoughts become louder, and a thought that becomes louder is a feeling. If you deny the feeling, a feeling that becomes louder and is still denied becomes a physical pain or issue. That's the process of disease. Thought, feeling, physicality, body, because it's just your higher self trying to get a message to you and you're not listening. The last cause of disease, deficiency. We're being fed rubbish. We're all deficient in something, and we're all deficient in multiple things. Vitamin D3, we don't get enough sunlight. More about this later because number 8, the number 8 figures prominently for nutrition. Deficiency, what other deficiencies? Well, they say, oh, here's another source of nonsense. The Milk Marketing Board. You've got to have dairy produce, otherwise you'll be deficient in calcium. Nonsense. Yeah, the opposite is true. If you eat dairy, unless it's raw, non-pasteurized, you will be deficient in calcium because the acidity in the dairy is not the body can't deal with it. We're not built to drink the lactating fluid of another mammal. Can you believe that? Can you credit that? You know, what other mammal drinks the lactating fluid of another mammal? You know, and we think that we are top of the heap on this planet. We're nowhere near the top. Whales and dolphins rank much higher. You know, if aliens did want to talk to anyone on the planet, they would talk to whales and dolphins. They would not talk to us because we are too daft. We are. We're bonkers. The 4 tenets of Satanism. Right, now, why Satanism? Again, ooh, Satanism, crikey. Powerful stuff. No, everyday stuff. Virtually everything that is in your life is satanic. Satan is not a nasty dude with horns. It's a force of fear and negativity. Now, some people think that it's a dude with horns and get down on the knees to it or him. Well, they're playing games. It's just game playing, role playing. The 4 tenets of Satanism. 1, serve the ego. Again, if you think about all the things that society encourages you to do, rewards you for doing, celebrity, what's this, celebrity-itis? You know, I want to be a star, Britain's Got Talent, serve the ego. Serving the ego, you're moving away from the heart and away from self-love. No right or wrong, amoral. Yeah, satanic systems like banking, like anything that's run by a computer. Computers, unless I'm missing something, computers don't have the moral fiber of the universe woven into them. Yeah, unless it's just zeros and ones. Where's the morality in a 0 or a 1? Survival of the fittest. Dog eat dog, back to my friend's quote. So that's what schools encourage, survival of the fittest. You've got to be just right. And if you are just right, we'll reward you with a certificate. Yeah, everybody else can just go swing. So, again, things that we take for granted. Darwinism, I'm going to mention him later as well. I've got it in for him, to be honest. I've really got it in for Darwin. Darwinism, cultural Darwinism, you know, it's just, this is not what we're here for. We're here to love ourselves and to help the other. Love, self, help other. Love, self, serve other. Where's the Darwinism in that? Population control, eugenics. That's another aspect of Satanism, satanic, global agenda stuff. You know, I am in many senses a conspiracy theorist, but I don't dwell too much on what someone I'm probably never going to meet is plotting behind my back. I'm more focused on helping myself and helping others to wake up. And if we're awake, there's nothing anybody can do, because we are powerful people. They rely on us being fearful and ignorant and unconscious of our own power. That's what they feed off. The number 4 features in the 4 agreements. This is from ancient Toltec wisdom. First one is be impeccable with your word. Again, you're lifting your own vibration by being impeccable with your word. But again, society encourages you to lie. All the time, you've got a form to fill in. If you tell the truth, you're going to penalise yourself. It's so clever. It's hilarious. Whoever this Satan guy is, I want to shake his hand. What a clever bugger. He's got us lying. And self-demeaning again, eroding our sense of self. Because we're getting confused. Don't take things personally. Yeah? And I would hope Satan wouldn't take my criticism personally. You see what I mean? Yeah? If he knows one or two things about life. Don't take things personally. Again, when the authorities come down on you like a ton of bricks, which they're doing with me at the moment, when it first started happening, I thought, oh, why are they doing this to me? Why me? No, they don't know who I am. They don't give a monkeys about who I am. You know, it's just what they do. So don't take it personally. I met a former policeman in one of these meetings, Leeds. I think it's a Leeds meeting, and he said he couldn't get past that. He said he couldn't activate his rebelliousness, partly because he's an ex-copper, so that doesn't help, but partly because he said, I take it all personally. I think that, you know, why me? Number 3 of these ancient Toltec wisdoms, never make assumptions. Where's all this stuff when you're at school? Where is all this? Never make assumptions. That's a powerful one. We make so many assumptions. We make so many assumptions. We assume that authority is right and we're wrong until we wake up, obviously. Yeah? We assume that doctor knows best until we wake up and do our due diligence. We assume that somebody who's got 500,000 followers on YouTube must have something going for them that we haven't got. But if we're all from one, how can that be true? Always do your best. And you'd swear that lots of people don't know this one, you know? When they tailgate you or cut you up and then give you the finger you know, or just do anything rude, obnoxious. It's not necessary. Are they doing their best? I don't think so. You get some new agers saying everyone does their best with what they're given. Sorry, I'm not having that. Yeah? Is it so difficult not to be rude? Not to be obnoxious?
It is.
For some people, it probably is, yeah. Right, we're at number 5. The 5 languages of love. The 5 languages of love. Now, if you have a different language to somebody else, especially your partner, this can pose a problem because you're expressing your love in one way. They're not getting it. The 5 different expressions of love are words, obviously, I love you, you know, it doesn't take rocket scientists to work that out. Service, when you do good deeds, caring deeds for someone. Touch, loving touch, yeah? You try touching a child lovingly these days that isn't yours. Sometimes it even is yours. You know, the sabotage is so extensive, the political correctness, the health and safety issues, that you can't even do loving things anymore. We're really trapped, guys. We've got to work our way out of this trap. This is why I'm here tonight, so that you can go away and have a think about how we can work our way out of this nonsense. So words, service, touch, gifts, obviously. If you love someone, you give them something. And the most precious of all, what do you think the most precious, loving language is? Time, yeah. There's nothing more precious than time. Although in some respects we are eternal beings, here in this 3D dimension, 3D meaning death, destruction, and decay. I had another one. I had so many Ds, I thought, I'm going to collapse this one. Yeah? Time is the most precious thing that we can give to people. So, excuse me, if you have a partner who does not understand the loving power of touch, but you do, again, that's a breakdown of communication, you know? Where is this in our marriage guidance or in schools counselling, you know? Are the key people in your life on your loving wavelength? Yeah? I mean, personalising this for a moment, if somebody gives me a gift, it doesn't register as love to me. I'm not a gift person. Time, yes. Touch, yes. Service, yes. Words, no, words and gifts don't register. So I register 3 out of 5. So you have to know where your love is registering in your system to make your life more coherent, more effective and more self-loving and more sane. One thing I didn't say, because when you're breaking the ice in front of an audience, there's so much that you'd love to say that you'd thought you were going to say that you forget to say, and one of them is that staying sane, because I've got to stay faithful to my main theme, staying sane, is sane I take as a broad definition. I use a broad definition. It's not just psychologically sound or mentally balanced, it's also physically healthy. It's more about well-being generally, holistic well-being. Sane, from the Latin, from its root, sanum, you know, health, healthy, sanus, Latin. So it's healthy on all levels, yeah? So let's go physical for the number 6, the 6 foundations of health. Well, it's not just physical actually, but essentially physical. Oxygen, so you need to be fully conscious of these 6 elements in order to guarantee health, and these should guarantee health in 99% of all cases. So good clean oxygen, so if you're in the middle of a city you need to get out more. Water, round here you're okay, I think. Water, if you're drinking tap water, stop it. If you're drinking anything other than filtered water, ideally alkalized and mineralized, I would encourage you to change your habit. Now the reason I can say this is these things I'm doing. This is an alkalizer and mineralizer, you know? Because we don't need as much water as we think we do. What we need are electrolytes. So your water needs to be electrolytically balanced. If you're just sipping, tap water just doesn't count at all as water because it's gone through all kinds of industrial processing, so it's not fit for human consumption. It's not even fit to shower in. And yet, of course, being the insane people that we are, we pay for it. We pay for water. Personally, I don't, but there you go. But most people pay for water that is not fit for purpose. What's going on? Moderate, gentle exercise. Moderate, gentle exercise. Exercise should put a smile on your face. It shouldn't wipe it off your face. That's self-harm, ladies and gentlemen. Stop it. You see people in the gym and they put the machine on 10, and within 5 minutes their faces are screwed up in agony and their breath is gone. They're dying, you know. Death, my uncle used to say, every time you ask my uncle, what did that so-and-so die of? He used to say, shortage of breath. So shortage of breath is not good. Nutrition, more about that later when I get to the number 8. Detox. You should be detoxing 2 or 3 times a year, at least, in some way. Juicing, fasting. I haven't got around to fasting. It's been winter, and I wouldn't fast in winter, but, you know, all these things are recommended for people who want to be sane, because on the continuum, mental health, mens sana in corpore sano, you know what I mean? Do you remember that one? Healthy mind in a healthy body. Yeah, you can't have one without the other. Release emotions. Don't bottle things up. So if you've had parents that didn't allow you to release anger and frustration, not only is that traumatizing, it's health diminishing. Mental health and physical health too. So we really don't have to look very far for the secret to health and happiness. It's right in front of our noses. You know, some of the exotic speeches that I listen to online and offline about how to make your life amazing and wonderful. In my opinion, waste of time. You just need to wake up to the basics, really, you know, because we're so powerful, but we've forgotten the basics, because the basics don't enter into the vernacular. They're not in the curriculum. If you start talking about the basic tenets of health to someone in the pub, what they're going to do, they're going to turn their back on you. Oh, that's a bit deep, in it, for a pub. You know, but anyway. Okay, 7, the 7 neutral needs. I've got 3 sets of 7, actually. The 7 neutral needs: air, and some of these overlap with other things. Air, water, nutrition. We've seen that already. Shelter. So these are the, Maslow's hierarchy of needs to some extent. Good sleep or good dreaming. Connection, sense of belonging. Creative expression. You've got to have a creative expression. Now, this is going to sound very, very patronizing. It's not meant to be, but most people's idea of creative expression is sex. Because that is the ultimate act of creativity, but there's more to creative expression than sex. As a long-term celibate and author, I can vouch for that. More about sex in a minute. The 7 deadly sins. Again, 7. 7's a big number, actually, in mysticism. Well, we know them. We know them, don't we? Or we've heard of them. Lust, greed, sloth, envy, anger, lies, pride. Now, what's happening, or what's happened in society, and I can't put a date on it, all I know is that it's certainly happening now, is that a lot of these so-called sins are glamorized. They're promoted as positive. Yeah? The playground banter of how lusty you are and how many girls you've snogged, or, you know what I mean? It's like notches, isn't it? The notches on the bed syndrome. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. It takes you away from who you really are. Greed. The banking system relies on our greed. So notice that I'm not, although I'm dismantling certain institutions, I'm not blaming them for anything. Ultimately, it's us. Like the man, my Facebook man friend said, it's us. It's our lack of personal responsibility that they are feeding off. Yeah? Sloth, you know, the work ethic, more about that later. Envy. Oh, entire industries rely on us wanting what next door neighbours got. Yeah? Anger. Well, anger management. Yeah, that's another industry and entirely to itself, anger management. Well, why are you needing to manage anger? Why not remove the source of anger? You know, why get angry in the first place? So anger management actually relies on people getting angry. Yeah? Crisis management relies on crisis. Yeah, what's the crisis about? Sort the crisis out. Don't manage it, sort it out. Lies, we touched on lies before, that you need to lie in order to gain a benefit or advantage. Pride, we're all very, very full of pride, aren't we? We're all so hurt that we use our pride to defend ourselves, but that's not ideal. Now, the next 7 is something that I hadn't heard of, but it's again something that is remarkable in its simplicity. The 7 virtues of the soul. Has anyone heard of the 7 virtues of the soul? Good. I'm reassured, not just me. The 7 virtues of the soul, which we should all know. I mean, some of us know most of the 7 deadly sins, but none of us know the 7 virtues of the soul. Doesn't that stink? What sort of society have we grown up in that has not taught us about the 7 virtues of the soul? Right, first one, altruism, obviously, looking after the other, thinking about other people. Right action is the second one. They're in no particular order, by the way. Humility. Okay, these are antidotes to some of the 7 deadly sins, obviously. Humility would be the antidote to pride. Chastity, yeah, that's the antidote to lust. Now, chastity doesn't mean no sex. It means responsible sex, loving touch. Okay, but sex is... When you watch a movie, the hero and the heroine have this kind of idealized sex, don't they? And it makes you think, oh, that looks all right, that. I could grab a piece of that. But then you try it in real life, and you think, hang on a minute, I've been scammed again. What's going on? And yet another scam. No, chastity means, and it actually means, I'm going to use a word that a lot of speakers shy away from. It also means, believe it or not, leave yourself alone. No masturbation. Leave it. Let it dangle. Yeah. Now, I don't say that in a pious, self-righteous, holier-than-thou kind of way. All I'm saying is that if you're starting to care and love for yourself, your vibration goes up, and the need to pleasure yourself dissolves. Pleasure is only needed by people who are unhappy. There's a big one for you. Take that one. I'll repeat that. Pleasure is only required by people who are inherently unhappy. They need the pleasure so that they can forget their unhappiness, and it's like a stepping stone. They get across the bridge, but ultimately they'll fall through into the ravine. So if you're in need of pleasures, you ain't happy. Okay, now, I don't have a magical pill for happiness, but once you become aware that happiness will help you dissolve these self-demeaning habits, you're on your way. Love, bit of a cliched word, love, but I think it's obvious. Our soul is full of love. Our soul wants to give and receive love. Obviously, there's 5 ways of expressing it in the here and now, in the 3rd dimensional reality. Here's one, happiness for others. Happiness for others is an expression of the soul. Yeah, so you know you're on a good path when you can feel, it's empathy, isn't it? It's happiness for others, but it's beyond empathy. Empathy can be a negative thing, like feeling sorry. When someone is hurt, you feel they're hurt. But this is the brighter side of empathy. Being happy when they're happy. Yeah? How much of that is there around? I'm only asking. Temperance. okay, which is defined in my dictionary as no alcohol, but I think it's broader than that. It's moderation in self-poisoning things. So those are the 7 virtues of the soul. 8, nutritional choices to guarantee health 97% of the time. Right, no GMOs, no non-organic grains, no commercial dairy. I'm a vegan, so I would say no dairy, but the author of this said no commercial dairy. Just excuse me 1 minute. Right. Raw dairy allegedly is not so bad for you. I'm not so sure, but that's what some people say. Vitamin D3, because we don't get enough sunlight. Or if you're out in the sun all day, that's different. Anyway, if you work outdoors, that's fine. Omega-3s, yeah? Fish oils if you're omnivore, or flaxseed, hemp seed, sesame seed, things like that, omega-3s. Here's one that's new to me. I've literally ordered it yesterday. Lugol's iodine. You take that? Good. That will restore cellular integrity, boost your immune function, and do all kinds of wonderful things, and include boost your thyroid function and improve clarity of mind. You see, what's basically going on is that they, whoever they are, David Icke has his own idea, I've got my own ideas, but let's just call them they for now, otherwise we'll be here all night discussing who they actually are. They want you sick because it pays for you, it pays them for you to be sick in a multitude of ways. But you want to be well and healthy. Or am I missing something? Do you want to be well? Yeah? Is that a yes?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Vitamin C with bioflavonoids. Some people, you know, if in extreme cases, take your vitamin C intravenously. And I mean extreme, like if you have a life-threatening illness. Intravenous vitamin C is one of the recommendations. Fresh organic veggie juice. What? Here.
Organic vegetables.
There you go.
That's a positive, absolutely.
Right, we're up to the number 9, the 9 universal substances. I asked my friend David over there to find, I couldn't find a number 9, I didn't have one. And he found this, the Vaisheshika branch of Hindu philosophy. There are 9 universal substances or elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether, time, space, soul, and mind. Now, if your life is constricted, and we've all grown up with these constrictions into time, space, water, air, you know, if you're not conscious of ether, soul, or even mind, then again you're diminished. You're not fulfilling your potential as a divine spark of the ultimate creative force. Number 10, the 10 Commandments. These are from Native American traditions. 1, treat the earth and all of its inhabitants with respect. 2, remain close to the Great Spirit. 3, show great respect for your fellow beings. 4, work together for the benefit of all humankind. 5, give assistance and kindness wherever needed. 6, do what you know to be right. 7, look after the well-being of mind and body. There you go. 8, dedicate a share of your efforts to the greater good. Now, at the moment, we're being robbed of our efforts, you know? We're being time robbed and energy robbed. Sorry about the play on the word rob. Yeah, we're being deprived. Yeah? Meterage is a classic, prepayment meters, just as a random thought, prepayment meters is a classic example of them forcing you to part with money so that whatever happens, they've got money. Yeah? It's insane. More about that in the second half when we undo some of the billing systems. Number 9, be truthful and honest at all times. Again, we've discussed that. We're being encouraged to lie. Number 10, take full responsibility for your actions. Yeah, personal responsibility. There's certain things that I just have to reiterate because they're so important, yeah? And 56, I said there was a random number here. 56 is the number of commercial industrial names for sugar. For example, maltitol, fructose, syrup, evaporated cane juice, sorbitol, whatever. Yeah? We're living in a world where sugar can no longer be called sugar because people think it's bad for their health, and it is in excess. So they invent other names. So we're being scammed left, right and centre. Right, now I think I'm going to allow myself it's going to be a rapid... Are you all right for the A to Z? It won't take too long. Is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Are you bearing up, or are you desperate for a break?
No, we're all right.
You all right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure? At the back? Keep going?
Yeah.
I won't keep you too long because it will get repetitive if I start. Okay. So this is the A to Z of a sick society, with particular reference to children and education and schooling. Okay? So this is where I can roll my sleeves up now. Right, A stands for adverse childhood experience. Now, adverse childhood experiences are meant to be parents breaking up, parent being incarcerated, parent dying. That's the standard model. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion for now, schooling is an adverse childhood experience for most children because it diminishes the soul. It's soul destroying. B stands for busy. Busy, well, when you're busy, you're making a noise, you're not silent, you're removed from your God space, your God spark. Busy is now a calling card. Have you been busy this week? Yeah, I've been busy. We're so proud of being busy. You know? Yeah, I'm busy, got loads on. Took me forever to wake up Monday morning and think, hey, I've got the whole day to myself and feel content with that. We're so indoctrinated into the Monday morning must-do mentality. So busy, you know, as detrimental to mental health is something that I would suggest. Obviously, if you have a project on and you need to work hard at it, go for it. I'm not saying do nothing. I'm just saying be wary, be careful of the idea of being busy just for the sake of bragging to your mates that you're busy.
Like an addiction as well.
Yeah, it's just under another addiction, another escape from the inner reality. C, critical thinking, that we're not really taught to do at school, you know. I had an elite education and my critical thinking was pants for a very long time. I'm only just recovering from that, you know. I used to swallow any old crap whole. I couldn't think for myself. Chastising. The latest neuroscience strongly suggests, well, more than strongly suggests, is proving that if you tell a child off before that child reaches a certain age, its brain cannot cope. You will cause it brain damage. The age is about 6 or 7. So that's why my suggestion is do not send, if you have to send children to school, in some cases it may be grandchildren, if they have to go to school, do not send them to school before the age of 7. Ideally 8 or 9, then you're in line with Finland and Scandinavia. Because they're going to get told off. And if they get told off, they're going to be caused brain damage. Specifically, it's the hippocampus. It's the memory and learning center. Children of that age do not understand being chastised. They don't get it. Or being forced to sit in a particular place and sit still. Brain damage. Collaboration. Collaboration in school. What did they call collaboration in your day? In school?
Teamwork.
No, negatively. If you spontaneously collaborated. A word be... Cheating. You're cheating. No, miss, I just wanted to talk to Peter about the problem that we're trying to solve. Cheat him. Divide and rule. D, Darwinism. Well, we've discussed him. Survival of the fittest. Give us a break. Democracy. There's barely a single democratic school in this country. America has about a dozen, maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe 40. But it's got some schools. In this country, Summerhill School may be classed as a democratic school. That's it. And there's a school in Scotland which arguably is that's Tilda Swinton sent her kids to a school. It features in the book, but I'm not going to read that out. No democracy, and within schools, no democracy. Children don't have a voice. If teachers don't have a voice, now this does feature in the book. If teachers don't have a voice, what chance have children got? Think about it. Teachers don't have a voice. I've been in dozens and dozens and dozens of staff rooms around the country. I didn't see evidence once of teachers thinking things through independently and voicing their thoughts constructively. They would just mumble under their breath and get on with it. The slavery continues, folks, but we are prolonging it unnecessarily because we've got our mortgages to pay and our kids to feed. It's so clever. It's so clever what's been, it's amazing, you know? Divide and rule, we've covered that. Divide and rule. You go to a park, you can sit on your own bench. The next bench is about 300 yards away. You can't chat to someone how rough life can be at times. Where are the spaces where people can gather? Yeah, there are no people's spaces. Yeah, there are none. They've been filled with statues and fenced off or whatever. Okay, so we are divided. Now, I'm not saying that we should gang up and form, one of those revolutions that never work. It's an internal thing. Your revolution must happen internally. Okay, because all that happens when you form a gang is you just get shot at. That's all that happens. E for exams, okay? Again, massive distraction. We're made to think that if we can pass enough exams, our life will just all of a sudden fall into place. No one's passed more exams than me. Did it do me any good? Well, it got me from A to B when I hadn't woken up, but ultimately, it didn't do me any good. You know, I'm not using any of those exams. I did exams in French and German, but I couldn't speak the languages. You know, when you learn a language, you want to speak that language. So when I came to learn Spanish, I thought the only way to learn it is to go and live in Spain. And so I proved to myself, you've got to roll up your sleeves, get stuck in. But when you're taught something like a language at school, you're being taught it so that you can pass an exam in that language. And it's two different things, being taught a language to pass an exam and learning a language autonomously. Two different things. And that's the same with other school subjects, you know? You learn by experience, not by being told anything. F, fear. Something that we're full of. I'm still processing fear because it's in our DNA. Yeah? And the people that we speak to who are not outside the box thinkers, the first reaction you get, even though it may look like anger, it's actually fear. You know, when they tell you you're talking crap, they're full of fear. They're fearful that you actually might be right and that their entire lives make no sense. G, guilt. So there's two things going on here. There's G for guilt and G for God. In the community schools, it's guilt because they've taken God off the agenda, and in the faith schools, it's God. But whether it's guilt or God, that's the controlling mechanism, isn't it? If you don't behave, God will punish you. If you don't behave, you're guilty of, and they reel off a list of offences that you're guilty of, you know. Basically, it's military insubordination. Schools are being run like military boot camps. But because we've all been to school, we don't notice it. You know, you could say, what are you talking about? Well, I'm noticing it because I went to school and I've had testimonies from other people, including teachers. You know, it's getting so bad that most teachers don't get past the training. Half of them just quit while they're training. And half of the other half quit within 2 years, something like that. Again, the stats are in the book. Independent thinking. Again, not something that we're encouraged to do because it's threatening. For introversion, this one is so dear to my heart. Even though I'm stood out here talking, my default mode is introversion. Now, that doesn't mean I'm shy. I'm not timid. That means so I can do this. It's not a problem. But introversion means I think a lot, quietly to myself. Yeah? I used to roam my school looking for a quiet space. And the school really does no justice whatsoever to all kinds of children, probably all children, but particularly introverted children. Yeah? Because you have to be seen to be making an effort, making a noise, doing your bit. But sometimes introversion leads you inside yourself. And people go, what's the matter? Why are you so quiet? It's a problem. And in your adult life, you would have noticed this. If you go quiet, because you've entered a moment of reflection, that really poses a problem for the people around you. And it makes them feel very uncomfortable. And it shouldn't, because introversion is in fact our default mode. You know, we've been dragged out of ourselves, kicking and screaming, into the extroverted world where ultimately nothing is real. Ikigai. Now I'm going to need the help of my book here. Your ikigai is a Japanese concept which basically means your passion, finding your ikigai. Yeah, it says, since writing this book, I've come across the amazing Japanese concept of ikigai. This is in the appendix, because I wrote it after the main book. This is quite simply the search for your reason for being. So that's your ikigai, it's your reason for being. Everyone has a unique ikigai. Finding it can be a deep and often lengthy search of self. It is so powerful and far-reaching that I have given it its own page. Oh, I didn't need to read that bit. So how do you know when you have found your reason for being? According to the Japanese, 4 aspects of life must be activated. 1, you have found something you love. This is your passion. So your ikigai is your passion. Number 2, this passion reflects something you are good at. That's your vocation. So it's passion and talent, passion and gift. 3, this vocation is something the world needs. That's your mission. The world needs it. And finally, the mission will be paid for by others. They see the value in it, and that's your profession. That's your calling, yeah? When all 4 strands are simultaneously true, for whatever you are doing, then you have found your ikigai, and therefore your reason for being. And it can be anything. Being a mother could be your ikigai. Anything. That's probably the most noble of all ikigais, being a parent. But it can be anything. But if it's working at Sainsbury's or Asda, probably not your ikigai. And there's probably a lot of people working in big stores and call centres thinking, I'm sure I could be doing a bit more with my life. And I'm sure that that's true. But they're not encouraged to by society because they've got bills to pay, mortgages to pay, kids to feed. Again, it's the trap that we're in. The trap. J, jobs. Okay? If you behave yourself, pass enough exams, pass enough interviews, you'll get a job. Okay? But the ikigai is not about a job, it's about work. It's about contribution to the community. K is knowledge. Knowledge, true inner knowing. Gnosis. Have you heard of the Gnostics? Okay, they knew stuff. They have been airbrushed out of history. Okay, and it's staggering what we don't know. And it's something, but many things that people did know, but we no longer know. And so they are using our lack of knowledge to their advantage and to our detriment. L for lies, that's okay. I don't need to dwell on that. Then I have MQ, 3 M's, marriage, mortgage, money. Well, lies, I could have said it's a lot of the stuff that children learn in school is just nonsense, just rubbish. Marriage, mortgage, money, well, these are the 3 foundations of society. Again, that's really, really important, but again, not dealt with at school. You don't learn about marriage. You make an assumption that you will be married, but you don't learn about it, about how to enter it, how to, you know, look for the person that might vibrate appropriately for you. Mortgage, again, it's an assumption that you need your own home, that you've got to have a mortgage. You're not told that mortgages are in fact mainly a scam. And there is a firm of solicitors in Birmingham who are looking into the mortgage scam, whereby 85% of mortgages are paid off by your signature, securitized basically. So the mortgage is paid off within weeks of you signing for it. So what are we doing paying mortgages? A little bit more about that after the break. Money hasn't existed for quite some time. It used to be valuable coins, metal, that was recognized universally. You try and spend sterling in France, and tell me how precious sterling is there. So not only are we in jobs that diminish us, we are working for money that doesn't even exist. That's how clever this scam is. Fiendish. N stands for no. Just say no. If something is not appropriate for you, whether it's somebody is demanding something off you, it doesn't matter who they are, just say no. Now, I could devote 10 hours to that concept just alone. O is oxygen. And again, going back to schools, the idea is that children are not allowed to say no. So you learn to say yes in the schooling system. P, peer group pressure. If schooling doesn't damage you, then your peer group pressure, because again, when you have a group, if you identify the group, the lowest vibration is the one that brings the group down, yeah? The one with the lowest vibration brings the group down. Police. There are now police officers in schools in America, and I think there are some in London now. What are police doing in schools? You know, what's going on? Q, qualifications, again. Which do you prefer, an absolute success or a qualified success? Yeah. So when you qualify at anything, you're actually diminishing what it is you're qualifying at. It's something less than what. Yeah, I'm a qualified lawyer, but I don't practice as a lawyer, you know. I've learned more law in the last 2 years than I ever did studying law. When I was a qualified lawyer, I knew no law whatsoever, nothing, none. So qualification is a way of reducing our knowledge so that it fits in with the mainstream model. R, registration. When you register anything, you give title over to the government. Now, you've had a visit from John Harris, the late great John Harris, haven't you? A long time ago. He would have told you that. When you register anything in the Roman system, it gives title to the government. So when you register your kids at school, on the school register, you are in effect giving power over the children to the school. A little commercial break. Oh, we don't do commercial break. And when they have to sit and answer to the register, again, they're learning to comply. That's ultimately what schools are teaching, compliance. When they're answering to the surname, S-U-R name, slave you remain name, they're learning compliance. S, solitary confinement. Schools are now, again, punishing children for not complying with solitary confinement, sometimes straitjackets, particularly in America. It always America is going to happen here. Sunlight. Children made to sit in rooms all day are being deprived of sunlight. Now that sunlight, If you imagine the child is a plant or a flower, it needs sunlight to flourish and thrive, doesn't it? It may sound stupid, but it's as simple as that. Children just need fresh air and sunlight. How daft is that? And what does school do? Takes them out of the fresh air and out of the sunlight. T for time, we've touched on time. School deprives you of precious time to be with your family and friends. U leaves you unprepared for adult life. Another U is makes you wear a uniform, so you lose your sense of self. You just become a blob with the appropriate uniform, and that will prepare you for office life or warehouse life, you know, where you can just conform. V, vaccinations. Somebody asked me before, but I'm going to mention immunizations. It's in certain parts of America now, unvaccinated children not allowed to go to school. And that will happen here too. W, work ethic. No rest for the wicked, as they say, but no rest for the good either. You know, we need to be playing more. We have to have a play ethic. I play lots of games, table tennis, bridge, the card game, football. I'm not playing football at the moment, but my life is focused on play. Not entirely, but as much as possible. Play. I'm at my happiest when I'm playing. Yeah? And children are certainly no different to that, you know. So this is the looking after the inner child idea, yeah? If the minute you stop playing, you stop living, in my view. X is the symbol of shame. You know, when a teacher scrawls X on your work, that shouldn't happen. Leave it blank, or give it a tick. So it's either blank or a tick, but not an X. It's a symbol of shame. And then when you see an X later in life, yeah, brings up memories, yeah, flashbacks. As for Castlemaine 4X, that brings back an awful lot of. Y is you. Again, you is not really anybody identifiable. So whenever you see, you know, at school they used to say, you must do this, you must do that. Who is you? Again, if you've ever been to a lawful sovereign talk, they will teach you that you makes no sense in law. You must do this. Who is you? But we learn in school that you is the person that they're addressing, but it's not. You is meaningless. You actually in English is plural. The singular for you is thou. It's ambiguous. It can be singular, but it has to be obvious that it's singular. But if somebody, you know, but if it's written down, it's totally ambiguous. It can be plural. Yeah. All of you, yeah. Z, zero tolerance. There's zero tolerance for any kind of difference in school. If you've got anything about you that's slightly different to the norm, yeah, then you will get punished or ostracized, made to feel small, removed from class, removed from school. And the last Z is Zen. Zen is that state where you have made your life calm, peaceful and quiet. Obviously in this mad world that we live in, that's not an easy, you know, I mean most Zen masters live in the Tibetan mountains. But Zen is a state that children actually reach very easily. And yet we want them to be more like us, and I don't even get that. We have to be more like them. We have to be able to do very little and yet be in a nice state of mind. And yet we're not really getting there, are we? We're not really achieving that. Television is distracting us. It makes you hyper for events, things going on, what's going on, when we should be slowing down. So we'll take a break now, and my abiding message for the break, 15-minute break, is what we need is just to slow down. Yeah, above all. But anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you after the break. Okay, thanks, Rob. I'm I'm sure that most of you have had your brains mashed by a lot of what was said in the first half, so I'm just going to give you a few moments. I'm cheating really, I'm actually giving that lot a few moments to just meditate on what you've heard, because even if you're an out-of-the-box thinker, it was quite powerful information. Yeah, do you agree?
Some good reminders there, David. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, what's going on.
It's very powerful, and I have to understand that. I mean, it's been a powerful journey for me waking up to all this information. And when you do, I'm sure some of you can relate to this, when you do wake up to certain truths, you know, they say the truth sets you free, but first it pisses you off. And it's bound to piss you off because you realise, hang on, where was this truth before? Does it mean I'm an idiot? What, or does it mean I've fallen for something? What does it mean? And you just go through this period of self-examination thinking, why did I not see any of this? Well, the reason is quite simple, is because the people that peddle the lies and control the world are absolute masters of disguise and falsehood. They are masters. And what is so clever is that they get other people to sustain the lies for them. They don't actually have to do anything, you know? And some of the things that we looked at, like peer group pressure and schooling, the media, films, movies. Yeah, some truth is coming through now from through the media, but it's like pulling teeth. So the default mechanism is really to perpetuate the lie. So it's just, you know, and when people are in that cycle of codependency, and they need the fix of entertainment because they're stressed, you know, and it's just a perfect setup. We'll sell you a lie to appease you, to ease the stress and burden of being stuck in that lie. Yeah? So we're all stressed one way or the other, yeah? Pretty much a lot of the time. Because we're chasing the dollar. We are earning a living. But why are we earning a living? What other animal on the planet has to earn a living? Again, it's, you know, what is it about humans that have to earn a living? Okay, somebody has to cultivate seeds, grow food and transport it. We could take turns in doing that. Somebody has to build a house. But once that house is built, why is it sold and resold? Why is it not just given to the next person who needs it? How can a house that costs 40 grand to build magically be worth £300,000 the day after it's built? Okay, and we don't even think about this. I mean, not long ago, I didn't think about things like this. It's not that I dwell on them. I'm not a homeowner, so I don't dwell on things like this. But I do wonder, what on earth is going on?
I suppose it's the external force of the market that kind of determines the price. It takes it out of your hands, really.
Yeah, okay, it's the market, but the market at the end of the day is us.
Yeah.
So we're falling for a constant stream of lies because everybody else is, and nobody wants to stick their neck out. So this second half, and I can reassure you that it will be very brief, because we're all a bit shell-shocked from some of the information, and the giver of the information can get quite drained. I'm not particularly drained, but I'm a little bit drained, because it's heavy-duty information, you know? We ain't been talking about the weather, have we? So I want to just expand a little on the idea of peaceful, self-loving non-compliance, and in particular with regard to the L. Again, and something else I forgot to introduce was I was going to take you on a journey to hell and back. Now we've done the HE of hell, which is health and education, but we haven't done the L of L, which is law. So I just want to briefly touch on that. So this is like at least 3 talks in one here, probably more, to be honest. So I just want to round off the evening with a brief look at how I have developed my own sense of peaceful, self-loving non-compliance, and how you could embark on a similar journey. But I'm not This is not legal advice. I'm not here to change your way of thinking, but I'm just here to reassure you that if your way of thinking is changing, then you have a role model, as I have my own role models, to guide you on your journey forward. So the first peaceful, self-loving, non-compliant thing that I did was to stop paying my water bill. And there are multiple reasons. In fact, the reasons, I actually wrote to the water company, United Utilities, and like a good little schoolboy, I with outrageous indignation, or outraged indignation, I said, "Why should I pay for your water? It's not fit for purpose." Now, if I was writing that letter now, I would just say, sorry, no consent, no contract, you know? And no bill. Because under the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, Section 3, a bill must be in writing, signed by the person making the bill out, and it must refer back to an invoice or a contract. So it must be solidified. A bill is not a statement of account. Statements of account are for trade purposes only. Now, if you're trading in your house, if you are entering into commerce in your house, then that's different. But most people just live in their house, in their private dwelling. But what they've done, and I'm not here to delve into lawful sovereignty or go, because it would take an entire talk and beyond just to do that. I'm just giving you an idea of how my life is going at the moment. So this so-called bill is not a bill, it's a statement of account, and the statement of account means that a company, a corporation, is liable for that account. Now, what they've done is they've turned you into a legal name. Now, are you familiar with the legal name fraud? Hands up who is not familiar with the legal name fraud. Good, right. So I don't have to go through that. That's a relief. So the legal name is the one that they're trying to attach liability to, but in our confusion, we think that it's us. And then going back to that idea of you, when you get a letter that's addressed to you, you owe us, you know, you must pay us. The idea of you is a nonsense, it's a nonsense. Who is you? Okay, because the letter has been addressed to a fiction, a dead corporate entity, but you are taking up the slack, you are stepping in as a representative for that corporate entity, which has a name exactly like yours, and paying the bill, which isn't a bill. So I have lots of issues with that. You're paying a bill which isn't a bill, and you're paying for something which does not involve you because you're not trading or entering into commerce. You're simply consuming water, which is your inalienable divine right as a man or woman. Who gave United Utilities the right to trade in water? Who gave British Gas the right to trade in gas? You can't trade in a commodity that is required for basic human needs. What you can do is charge a company for the consumption of that. So if you were running a business, in other words, if you're making profit from water, gas, electricity, then in effect you pay the bill to give them a share of the profit. There's some logic behind that. I don't have any qualms with that, you know, because in effect that gas, electricity and water is going towards making up your business. But if you're simply existing and using gas, water, electricity to survive, which in effect you are, especially in some of the cold days that we've had recently, then are you telling me that you should be increasing a company's dividend, a shareholder's dividend, or increasing their profit margin as a way of saying thank you for allowing me to survive? So are you denying yourself basic human rights? If so, why? So when you wake up, you just turn everything on its head, because when you're asleep with the sheeple, who are all paying their bills and thinking that they're doing the right thing, and you suggest, wait a minute, why are we paying water? Well, everybody pays water bills. Talk about something else, you know? Right, okay. So they can never explain it, like I said before. They just do it. But when you wake up, you stop doing it. So it's just quite a question of just say no. Now, for those of you who are of a nervous disposition, the water is a nice, safe place to start, because the government, in its wisdom, created regulations in 1997 which were designed to provide domestic water consumers payments through other means. In other words, what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is that local suppliers of water, in those days it was water authorities, are funded by rates, it's now council tax, and national taxes. So domestic users of water have no business paying for their consumption of water. If they do, then they are either incredibly generous or incredibly ignorant. Okay?
You can't cut you off neither, can they?
No, that's right. And it is interesting, they can't cut you off. They couldn't anyway. So I've moved on now. I've moved on to gas and electricity. Armed with the determination to slow down, because at the end of the day you're paying out, which means you have to have something coming in, which means you've got to do, you've got to plan, you've got to graft. Whoa, horsey, slow down. I'm on the planet to learn two things. A, what on earth I'm doing here, and B, while I'm here, I've got to learn to love myself. What's all this work ethic nonsense that means I've got to earn a living to pay the bills? What's all that about? Who threw that little spanner in my works, and why? Well, I haven't gone into it in detail today. I have in other talks that I've done, and I won't go into it now because I promised you an early bath, as it were, an early night. There is a force that does want to enslave us, that is trying to, David Icke talks about it, and the work ethic, earning a living, paying bills is all part of that satanic trap, okay? It brings up fear. They've got all kinds of, you'll get people ringing you up, sending you letters, but if you do your due diligence, you realise that they're not actually talking to you, because they represent a dead corporation and you're a living man or woman. So how can they talk to you? Which is why they send you summonses, because summonses are intense at communication with the dead. Yeah. But if you're alive, they have no business. I get all kinds of demands off me now from old credit card debts and God knows what. Water off a duck's back. I just see who they're addressed to. It's my legal name. It's not me. Now, I'm not here to go into detail about how to avoid paying this and avoid paying that. All I'm here to say is that I am avoiding this or not doing that, and it's not a problem. Now, I was talking to Rob before. No, Alex. Who was I talking to? No, Rob. Both of you, actually, probably. If I come back another day, I could go into more detail, but that's for another day. So I've moved on, emboldened by success with water, which was nothing really. I mean, at the time I thought it was a big thing. 4 years ago, when I was new to this kind of thing, I thought, ooh, aren't I cheeky? Aren't I brave? Ooh, aren't I the scally? No, I just want to have a shower in peace. I don't want to smell. So I moved on to gas and electricity, which happens to be the same supplier. There's a joke. How can one block of flats have 15 different suppliers of gas? It's one pipe, FFS, as they scream on Facebook. It's a joke. When you wake up to these things, you just have such a giggle. So they pretend to be your supplier and you play along. Yes, you're my yeah, no, they're not your supplier. It's a false commercial agreement. What they are is your credit broker. They are your credit broker. It's a credit agreement. It's a commercial arrangement. They have taken a gamble that you will, in your fear and ignorance, pay the bill, which isn't a bill because it doesn't comply with Section 3 of the 1882 Bills of Exchange Act. They're taking a gamble on your stupidity, with all due respect, and my stupidity too. And 99.8 or 9% of the time, that gamble pays off, doesn't it? But really, if you're prepared to tough it out, at the moment I've fielded one summons and one warrant for entry to fit a prepayment meter. Went through all kinds of fear because it was new to me. And then I realised, hang on a minute, how are they going to get in? Well, I've got to let them in. And why would I let them in? Because I'm scared shitless. Of what? Of them getting in. It's insane. I'm so scared of them getting in, I let them in. Oh dear, it's hilarious, really. And so what you do is you feel the fear and just keep the door closed. And then, of course, say, well, call the police. And my response to that was, I'd like to save you the trouble, and I'll call them myself. And I did actually call the police. I said, I've got someone making me feel unsafe in my own home. They don't come because it's a civil matter. They'd only come if somebody threatened somebody with violence or with that, or got actually violent. And like I said, I'm a man of peace, peaceful, self-loving, non-compliant man. And if you're peaceful and self-loving, the non-compliance has no repercussions whatsoever. You just have to lose the fear. They can't do anything. They absolutely rely on your fear and ignorance. It's so, they'll threaten, the red letter, the lettering on the letters, you must pay, you have not paid. This is our final demand. The lettering starts in 12 font and it ends up in 48 font. It's deliberately done. Clever buggers. And it works. Because I was new to this. I thought, my knees were shaking. I didn't want to open the letters. You go through this. But as more and more of us are doing this, it just gets easier for the people coming behind us to do it. Because we are here to reassure you that they need you to cooperate. The best way out of anything like this is just to send them a letter of conditional acceptance. Yes, I'm happy to pay you, provided you can prove your claim. And if you send me any more letters addressed to my legal name, I will just keep them on file pending fraud investigation. Because you're asking me to admit to being a legal name that is owned by the Crown Corporation, not by me. Okay? If you need any help with drafting a letter, get in touch and I'll send you some templates. But it's so easy. Once you've dealt with the fear. And it does help that I'm a legally trained lawyer, but only because I've got a certain eloquence with words, because that was part of my training. So my education did do something for, ironically, it actually did. It's enabled me to beat the people that actually organised my education. Nice one, eh? So you're not a bad person if you don't pay your bills, because those bills are a scam. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you are shirking your responsibility. You are shirking your responsibility by paying them. I'm here to tell you that in no uncertain terms. You have no idea what they're doing with the money. Your hard-earned money that you could spend on nurturing yourself, detoxing yourself, helping family and friends in need. You have no idea what they're doing with the money. They could be investing in terrorism. They could be investing in fracking. They could be investing in golf holidays for the top executives. Do you want to fund that? Do you really want to fund that? I don't. So we have to change our thinking. We have to really wake up and see more clearly. We're very good at complaining about how the world is run. In fact, I've got a quote here. This is a very good time for this quote. George Orwell So the people that elect corrupt politicians, impostors, thieves and traitors are not victims but accomplices. Once you are awake to the scams and yet continue to fund the scams, you are an accomplice, an accessory after the fact. I can't break it to you any other way. So really the reason why I keep the door closed, and that's all you have to do, you know, whether it's a bailiff or a gas agent, you just keep the door closed. Now, in extreme cases, if you've got a cheapo PVC front door, you may get somebody turn up with a locksmith and try and drill their way in. But just stand behind. They can't push past you. They can't cause you any physical harm, you know. So but there are ways and means to prevent that. But if you have a solid door, a wooden door with a deadlock, a mortise lock, they're not getting in. They're just not getting in. Because even if they could replicate the lock, it would take them a long time, and they would be too worried about you coming back, assuming that you're not in. And if you're in, they're not getting in. So, yeah, so I'm on gas and electricity. I'm on warrant number 2. So they didn't get the message when I resisted warrant number 1. So they're on warrant number 2. But I'm older and wiser now, and I now know in my skin and bones, in my heart as well, that they can only get in if I let them in. And that's even true of the police. Unless they have a warrant signed by a judge for your arrest for a serious crime or serious offence, nobody can get in. No bailiffs, no high court sheriffs, no one, because they're trying to seize goods, and goods is a commercial concept. You don't have goods at home; you have possessions, and you'll see it on if any of you delve in this. Has anyone delved into this? What I'm talking about now? Has anyone taken on their... Yeah. And have you had notice of warrant of control of goods and stuff like that?
I've had bailiffs at the door.
That's it. But they're looking to see... and have they tried to foist a prepayment meter on you?
Oh yeah, I wrote to the court, and the court told them to get lost and leave me alone.
Oh, good. Very good.
I asked them who gave them a statement of truth about this application.
Okay.
And something else. And I said I was in, what's the word now? I was sorting it out with the company.
Yeah.
So we were still, you know, talking to each other, so the court said, leave her alone, with immediate effect. And that was it.
Fantastic.
But they still send me bills for like £2,500.
Oh, yeah.
Email me, because I moved, so they don't already
Yeah.
know. So they used to email me saying I owe £2,500.
But remember that what they're not billing you, they're sending a statement of account to your estate, and they're hoping that you will take responsibility for your estate. Your estate is worth a lot of money, but it's the government's money. You can access it, you can do something called accept for value. There's lots of techniques. You can sign a sovereign signature that's what creates the money. You can actually, if you're really nervous and you don't want to have anyone at the door, and I understand that, I really do, then you can, there are ways and means. Just do your research accept for value. And a name I can give, he is an American, they're always Americans, aren't they, is Winston Shrout. Do you know him? No. Winston Shrout is the accept for value guru. And these are legitimate remedies. But we're not taught about, I mean, I was a trained lawyer and I wasn't taught about remedies. What a man or a woman can do to protect themselves. I recently had a result, and it was very odd. I sent a letter to a debt collector, and apparently they've had an application for attachment of earnings order refused, declined, on the basis of a letter that allegedly I sent them. When I checked the dates, that I hadn't sent a letter on that date. But an order went in my favour. I hadn't done anything as far as I was concerned. So what I'm saying is that, just as you've highlighted, that, you know, the system is more neutral than we realise. What's happening is that these big companies are buying lawyers, magistrates, legal clerks. They're literally buying them, you know, and they're having these warrant sessions bulk warrant sessions, like the council tax do their bulk liability orders, from bulk magistrate. They just rent the magistrate's room, a venue. It's called a venue. It's not a court, it's a venue. And they rent out the room, and so you're dealing. I've been to one of these hearings, and I was like gobsmacked, like this is rigged. This is a pantomime, you know. So they're rigging it, but the actual system is not rigged. It's easy to think that it is, and for a while I did think that it was, but it's not. But it has a dark side, dark underbelly, and these big companies are buying their way forward, you know, bulk buying their claims, and they're being rubber stamped. So, but the way out again is self-loving, non-compliance, self-awareness, know who you are, do some research, and start to unhook from a system that really is geared to keeping you trapped in cycles that are not healthy. Now, I don't have a story of, personally myself, of council tax, because for various reasons I've never paid council tax, because I used to live with a parent and they paid it on my behalf. But I wouldn't pay council tax if I had to. So I'm not the person to speak to about council tax, because I don't have any first-hand knowledge of what to do. I've got lots of second-hand knowledge, but not first-hand. What else would I not do? I would... mortgage payments are a tricky one, because the system is really designed... That's where you see the monster in the system. You try defaulting on a mortgage, and because that's gold dust for them. They want your house. They want to repossess your house. A friend of mine has had her house repossessed, and she didn't even have a mortgage. Figure that one out. She owned it 100%. She still had it repossessed.
No, they can repo a house for about £1,000 though, can't they?
None of us can work it out how they've done it, but it's remarkable. So there's something about real estate that they're particularly eager for. So I'm not here to tell you to stop paying your mortgage, but I am here to tell you that that, like I said before, there is a firm of bona fide solicitors employed by, I think, by the government, that are looking into the validity of most mortgages, because they are generally paid off, you know, securitized on the markets, on the stocks and shares markets.
There's a couple of people looking into it now. Simon Spaniard.
Yes.
Right, and Michael Abenisia.
Michael, yeah, there's supposed to be a film coming out, Great British Mortgage Swindle.
It's coming here. And Michael O'Deara.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's coming here in about a month. Michael O'Deara.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened to me was, before I really woke up and knew what day it was, is I had my car clamped. I've allegedly driven in a bus lane, and now they'll, you know, if you don't play ball, they'll come and find your car and clamp it and tow it away, and that did happen. But I would prevent it now. If you can't prevent a car clamp, just sit in the car. They can't take it away while someone's in it, and just take turns sitting in it. You know, they can't. Health and safety. They can't touch it while you're sitting in it. These are. What I'm finding is that the best form of self-defense is usually practical. It's not legal. It's practical, because they're playing tricks on you. So you have to fend off those tricks with practical manoeuvres. You know, because if you try paperwork, they're not interested. The system is too warped against what you could call reliable paperwork. And you don't want to get embroiled in paperwork. It's very stressful and very time-consuming. You just need to work out strategies and manoeuvres for looking after yourself. One thing that some people do is put, do you know about the legal notice you can put on your car? You know, private property. Do you know about that? You can put a legal notice on your, again, research it. The getoutofdebtfree.com has got this template of the legal notice. So if somebody touches your car, you put them on notice that they're trespassing, doesn't matter who it is, and they agree to pay you a sum of money for touching your car. So if you get a ticket, you pay them 30 quid, but they pay you £500. And I know somebody who's earning a living doing this. It's perfectly legitimate. It's contract. We live in a world where everything is contract. If this talk had been about law, which it hasn't been really, but I'm just finishing off with a bit of law, I would have talked about the only law is contract law. You know, when a policeman or a person in alleged authority says, it's the law, first of all, they don't know what they're talking about because they're not trained in the law. Not even lawyers are trained in the law. But the law is what you've agreed to as a sovereign, what you've signed an agreement to, with full disclosure, on equal and fair terms, with equal consideration, with 2 wet signatures. Yeah? Anything else may be evidence of contract, but to be enforceable, you've got to have a contract. Anyway, so I don't have a mortgage because I'm, again, living at this parent's place. It suits me because as a free spirit, I didn't want to tie myself down with too much money. I've achieved that. I haven't burdened myself with too much money. I'm very good at doing things like that. Or marriage or mortgage, you know, because you have to know who you are. So I know that kind of thing would not suit me. So it means that I don't have the trauma of, you know, the mortgage trauma or the marriage trauma. So I've got my own traumas, but I don't have them. Yeah, so I don't have a ready solution to get out of mortgage difficulty, but I am going to leave that to other people like Michael Obenissia, because they've been treading that path for many years and they're about to produce a movie. So that will unravel itself very soon, the mortgage fraud, especially. I think the timescale is about another 12 months, Dave, for those solicitors to find out what they need to find out.
Between 6 and 18 months.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So if you really want to find out whether your mortgage has been paid off, then you need to contact that firm of solicitors. I don't have the. Well, actually, Dave has got the.
Clearyourmortgage.com.
Clearyourmortgage.com. Okay. For a modest fee, what is it? 300 quid.
I'll take less than that.
Right. Okay. For a modest fee, you can find out whether your mortgage has already been cleared behind your back. And it's a gamble you take, but it's well worth it. And if they find out that your mortgage has been cleared behind your back, then they take a percentage of the saving of the rest of the mortgage that you were about to pay, but you don't have to.
There's another one called mortgage.
Mortgage compensation, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're filtered through to the same company.
But really, you see, this is not my expertise, but it's something, as a spokesperson, I'm happy to mention these things. But the main thing is that we're getting the information out there. You know, we're opening eyes and raising eyebrows, you know, because people, it's so entrenched in people's thinking. I've got to pay my mortgage. I've got to pay my water, electricity and gas bill. But if you look in the mirror and look around you for the actual obligation, you won't see it, because that obligation comes from a contract signed by two humans in wet ink, and none of them have that. In fact, mortgages are fraud because the solicitor tells you to sign it only after it's been, I forget exactly how it goes, but the way it works, I think, is that you can only sign it. Sorry, it's signed after the transfer, the legal transfer, at a future date, which makes the deed of transfer void. I'm simplifying it, but basically, yeah, you don't. The transfer and the execution of the transfer happen at different times.
There's a website on the void mortgage.
Yeah, void mortgage. So, you know, I'm just opening your minds to the fact that that there are means and methods in place to keep you in need of earning more and more money. It's getting worse. People are working longer and longer and longer hours for less and less pay, which goes less and less far. So people who are buying into the system are finding that they are shortchanging themselves more and more and more and more. So now is the time to buy out, get out of the system. Does it mean run for the hills and find a tree house? No. Because if you know who you are, you just stay put in your home and find out more about safely stopping all these payments that are in effect playing havoc with your life, you know, taking valuable time and energy out of your life that you could be using more constructively and more lovingly for that self-loving journey and the connecting journey that we need to be on to really get our lives back. We've had our lives stolen, guys. It's just theft. And they're not going to admit to theft, so we just have to stand up and say, no, enough is enough.